You've probably already heard that this year we are celebrating our 70th anniversary. 70 years is an incredible milestone for anything, but it's especially meaningful for a nonprofit. We know that you, our members and our donors, are the reason for our success. We would not be here if it weren't for this incredibly engaged and curious community who cares about the world, about making important connections, and about having conversations that really have the power to change the world. So again, thank you for your support and thank you for being engaged. If you are a guest of a member visiting us today, thank you so much and welcome. I hope you will consider becoming a member yourself. Members enjoy benefits throughout the year. Memberships are tax deductible, and they support everything we do here at Global Minnesota to advance international understanding in Minnesota. You can view more details about membership on the website at globalminnesota.org. Now, a couple of upcoming programs. I really hope you'll all join us in celebrating this monumental anniversary on June 18th for our 70th anniversary gala. It will be free to attend this virtual event this year, and sponsorships will also be available. Registration will be open soon on the website, so check back. And in addition, I also want to let you know about our next Lunch and Learn, which is coming up on May 19th. So mark your calendars. This time we will shift focus to refugee voices and experience a cooking demo by a refugee from the Middle East. So again, that's May 19th. Registration will be open soon. Now I know we want to hear from the fellows, so in a minute I will turn this over to the program director of the International Fellow Program at Humphrey, Afua Kwashi, who will tell us more about the fellow program and also introduce our first speaker. Just a note about the format today, each of our speakers will tell us a little bit more about themselves and their countries and their work. And then at the end, we'll open it up to questions. If you do have questions at the end, please feel free to use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen, and I will ask you to unmute yourself and go ahead with your question. You are also welcome to use the chat function at the bottom to post your questions. And with nothing more, I will turn it over to Afua.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us to hear from our international fellows today. I'll say just a little bit, as Christy said, about the Humphrey Fellowship Program, and then I will turn it over to the main event, the reason why you're actually here. So the Humphrey Fellowship Program, some of you may already know, was inaugurated in 1978 by President Carter following the passing of Vice President Hubert Humphrey. And it is one of sort of the legacy programs that were inaugurated after his passing. And the main point, the main goal of this program is to promote international cooperation, democracy, values of social justice, values that are shared by most people around the world. And since 1979, when the first cohort of fellows came to the United States, fittingly, the Humphrey School of Public Affairs has served as a host. And over the past 41 years, excuse me, we have hosted fellows from all over the world. This year, we are so happy and pleased to host a cohort of 10 fellows from 10 different countries who are here studying public policy and human rights, and also sharing their expertise and knowledge with us. 4 of us are joining us today, and I am very pleased to introduce Dunya Ben Slimani from Morocco, who will be our first speaker today. So Dunya, over to you.
Dunya, could you please unmute yourself so we can hear you?
Yes. Thank you, Afua. Good afternoon, everybody. Here we are. We can start now. First, I would like to thank Global Minnesota for inviting me. and thank you all for being here this afternoon. I am very happy to be with you today and to share some thoughts and my perspective from my work in Morocco. So I am Moroccan. I live and work in the economic capital of the country, Casablanca. It might be a familiar name to some of you because of the famous Hollywood movie. I was trained as a medical doctor and graduated in 2003, but I rapidly got involved into the civil society sector with a particular focus on art, culture, and human rights. In 2010, I co-founded an organization called Racine. Racines means roots in English. The organization doesn't exist anymore today, and I will explain later why in this presentation. I am looking forward to taking home as much as I can from my fellowship month, hopefully an additional knowledge and new skills, but also a human experience and new friendships with fellows from varied countries. I am enjoying my life here in Minneapolis, although it was difficult for me. The winter was kind of different. I'm not used to this weather with a very cold temperature, snowstorms, and the polar vortex and other particular weather things. I'm also aware that these are historical times for the community in the Twin Cities, for the US and for the world, and I'm really thrilled and glad to be part of it. These are some pictures from Morocco. Morocco is a beautiful country. And some tourism professional in Morocco would even say that it is the most beautiful country in the world. Indeed, the people in Morocco are so kind and lovely, and they are welcoming. They love to receive foreigners and to share with them their food, their cultures, their lifestyle, and it's really amazing to be hosted by a Moroccan folk. The culture is diverse and it is thousands of times old. So there are a lot of a variety of cultural traditions and heritage. And the food is great. As many of you must know, the Moroccan cuisine is very well known and famous internationally. We use a variety of spices and other sweets to create these amazing dishes as couscous, tagine, pastilla, and other Moroccan delicacy. Our landscape are breathtaking, and you can see beautiful mountains in the Atlas, beautiful beaches, the desert, and amazing oases, the green valleys, and the imperial city are just very, very beautiful. Unfortunately, there is like another side of the coin, which is more alarming and less bright. Morocco has indeed made some progress during the last decades, but there is still a huge gap between the reforms on paper and the reality of the people. Moroccans are still facing a lot of challenges and issues due to the lack of relevant policy for them to access quality healthcare, education, social justice, basic rights, and individual and collective freedoms. As we speak now, two of my friends, two journalists, are taking a hunger strike for now more than a week, protesting against their 1-year preventive detention pending their trial, and they are facing very serious charges, mainly because of the work that they do in the country. So in this slide, you will see a lot of numbers and statistics and indicators done both by Moroccan organizations, such as the High Commissioner for Plan, which is in charge of statistics in the country, but also by other international organizations, such as the World Bank or the UNDP program of the United Nations, and by some international human rights organizations. And this statistic actually show the rank of Morocco in terms of human development, in terms of freedom of expression, or internet freedom, but also some statistics about learning poverty, illiteracy, poverty, and other numbers. And these indicators actually illustrate the situation I am speaking about. And this is why, actually, because of this situation, during almost 10 years, my organization, Racine, used a bottom-up participatory approach through cultural programming and artistic projects to promote democracy and human rights. The aim was to empower people and transform them into active and educated citizens and rights holders, capable of advocacy and holding their politicians accountable. So we produced a lot of forum theater plays that were performed in the public spaces and gathering folks around a topic that they could debate with the actors, the comedians, but also with the other spectators. So they were participating to the play and debating about the issues. We also produced a lot of comic books with the help of a renowned artist in Morocco, and we used them in education workshop with grassroots NGOs and youngsters in order to train them on Moroccan political system, for example, or the provision of the Moroccan constitutions, the national laws related to freedom of expression, related to labor law, or other laws, and human rights treaties and conventions, and so on. We also produced some short films and documentaries on issues related to education, culture, migration, and women's rights. And of course, we used a lot internet and the social media to hold education campaign and raise awareness on the right to vote and the political participation. We also developed an evidence-based methodology to monitor cultural policies in Morocco. And the work we did actually gathered a very large network of organizations in the country, but also beyond the country. And it inspired many practitioners and NGOs in Africa and the Arab region. This work that we were doing needed a certain margin of freedom and a real consideration for the role of civil society organizations in policymaking, education, evaluation, and accountability. When we were expecting a strong support from our government for that work, Racine was dissolved by a decision of justice upon the request of that very same government. And all its projects had to stop 2 years ago, almost day by day today. It happened on April 16, 2019. And this was because of its engagement and for change based on democratic and human rights universal values. So 2 years after that, what next? I think that Nietzsche's quote that which doesn't kill us makes us stronger is applying here. We really believe this. And I took this very inspiring picture here in Minneapolis. It is the closed entrance of a theater on Cedar Street. And as activists, actually, we are seeking the well-being of our community, and we are engaged in the development of our country. So we believe in resilience. We also believe in a brighter future, and we will keep preparing for it through our work and with as many partners, supporters, and allies as we can. So this is an invitation to all of you to join us, either by following our work, supporting us, or engaging with us in a way or in another. I will end my presentation with a word of thanks. As we say in Arabic, shukran, for listening to me. I will drop in the chat the links to some interesting videos that you can watch, like a documentary and another short film about Racine's work. I also invite you to read this article written 4 years ago by an American journalist, Ursula Lindsay, about how we engage citizens through art in Morocco, and it describes a lot the work of Racine. Thank you again for listening to me, and please feel free to ask at the end. I'll be pleased to answer your question. And now I will turn it over to my friend and Humphrey Fellow, Maria Fernanda Hernandez. Maria is from Venezuela, and she's currently based in Santiago de Chile, where she works with an organization that provides parenting supports. Maria.
Thank you very much, Dunya. I call her Didi because she's been an amazing fellow, and indeed we are friends. And I'm gonna share now my screen to show you what I call. Just give me one sec, and it's there. What I call the longest night, and I would love to share with you more in a positive note about Venezuela. But to be honest, for me, I feel a responsibility about what's going on back there. I'm gonna, during this presentation, gonna introduce you a little bit about a specific problem that we have, that is violence and crime. But also I want to share how it's being a Venezuelan outside the country, and maybe try to empathize, because I understand and I've been living here since December, that you are also struggling with many stuff. And this week in particular, it's been quite dark. So I think we can find empathy and also work together to create a different, not only a different state here and a different country in my country in Venezuela, but a different world. And I'm going to introduce a little bit more about me at the end of the presentation. First, I would like to introduce you another person. And this person was called Mauricio. Mauricio, he was a student, public servant, and a skater. And for me, he was the funniest, the sweetest, and the most magnetic guy that I have ever known. And he was 25 years old. He was a son, he was many things. He was a brother, he was a boyfriend, he was my cousin, and he was a friend of hundreds of people. And you can see in the bottom of that picture, that little person that has this confused, frustrated face because I just wanted to go and play. That's me, and we were celebrating carnivals. This is a big deal in Venezuela. And we used to be a very close family. Mauricio was one of my closest relatives. And I feel I need to give you a little bit more of context about Venezuela. And in Venezuela, probably you have heard that we have many different crises. And I want to introduce you to the leader of the person that used to be the leader of the regime. He was called Hugo Chavez Frias, and he attempted to do a coup in 1992. And then he ran for elections in 1999. And to be honest, he was an authoritarian guy who concentrate power in the executive branch. He created a context where, even though he was in the speech, he talked a lot about social development and investing in the population. At the same time, he was creating a very terrible situation and taking advantage of many factors in Venezuela. And he passed away in 2013. And in that year, Nicolas Maduro, that is the guy that is just with the Venezuelan jacket, he ran for president. And to be honest, this is something that most of the 21st century dictators do. They held elections, but these elections are not free, nor democratic or transparent. So he did that. He did run for election, and on April 11, I'm not gonna forget that day. He did this closing ceremony about the end of the campaign, And a reality in Venezuela is that, and in many other countries, but in Venezuela, I'm sure this happened. When you're a public servant, you're obliged to attend this kind of ceremonies. You don't have many alternatives, like the alternatives is just to be fired. And on that day, Mauricio, the guy that I introduced you at the beginning of the presentation, he attended the ceremony, and he was not a political guy. He even though that, he always expressed how uncomfortable he felt like attending this meeting. And he indeed did it. And in that day, I think that was one of the darkest day ever in my life, because we received a call from the hospital, and that call was telling us that Mauricio was point blank shot, and he passed away even before arriving to the hospital. And of course, this was a tragedy for us. And we received a lot, like quite media attention, because it was just before the presidential campaign. And obviously this was a big news for the country. But even though this, we are not sure what happened that day. And because we were silent, and when we tried to raise our voices, I directly received threats, and my family also received many threats. And the criminal justice system in Venezuela failed to us, as it usually does with thousands of people. And even though this is a very particular story, this is not an isolated case. I have to say that sadly, in our region, in Latin America and the Caribbean, this is very common. We are the most violent region in the whole world. And 1 out of 3 global homicides are in Latin America and the Caribbean. And this is even though that we are only 13% of the world's population. So this is a huge and real crisis. And I know that this has a lot of emotional content, and you might be feeling sad, but at the same time saying like, well, I have to move on and keep focus on what's going on here, for instance. But here I would like to argue why you should care about violence in Venezuela. And I argue that this is a current security threat for the US and the region. And the first reason is when you have narco state, as we have in Venezuela, that control, like, is not able to manage organized crime, but also they do business with organized crime. So they promote this situation in a way. And you create a fertilized field to many organizations, such as terrorist group, international terrorist group, to base in the country. And this is an international security threat because it's given a space for those organizations. And not only for this, but other many reasons that I wish we could talk about more about it. We are living a mass migration. Over 5.5 million people have already fled the country. And just to give you a perspective, this is the same amount of people that you have in Minnesota. So imagine all of you going to your borders. And of course, this is creating a regional political challenge and giving you like an argument directly to the US. This is affecting the US commercial and political allies in the region. Because of course, we in Latin America and in the Caribbean, we're still building institutions, and any external factor is gonna affect a lot the development. So this is a regional security threat as well. And this context create a space to also authoritarian regimes in the world that are taking advantage of the political and economical advantage of the situation, because the regime in Venezuela is not alone. He's working with many people and using the oil diplomacy to create these kind of alliances. So these are the reasons I believe you should care about violence in Venezuela, because this is a matter of the whole world, basically. But I don't want to leave you here like just problematizing that. I just also want to share what I believe you can do about this. And the first thing is that we have to call what's going on there by its name. This is an authoritarian regime, and this is a 21st century dictatorship that oblige people to sign up to the ruling party, that is the Socialist Party, and they trade food for votes. They coerce anybody that raises her or his voice against their policies. So this is something important that we have to incorporate in our speech, because even though it's not mainstream today, because we're in the middle of a pandemic, there's still many things going on in Venezuela, and we're not talking much about it. The second thing is that we still need to keep spreading the word, not only because of Venezuela, but because this is something that can happen in any country. We used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world, and now we are living the worst crisis in the region. And the thing is that we sometimes take democracy as taken, but this is an active exercise rather than passive. So we're all vulnerable to live this kind of situation. And in a more local context, I would encourage you to demand investment in primary and secondary violence and crime prevention. Because if we don't work in the root causes of the situation, and in your context, like the reasons why we have violence in Minnesota or crime, we're not going to solve the problem anytime soon. We're going to always keep working on the consequences. So that's what I do basically. And now I'm going to share like a little bit of my bio. I'm also an immigrant, as Dunya said. I migrated on December 24, 2015. That was, in the middle of holidays, the only ticket that we could find. And in Chile, I'm being lucky enough to keep working in what I'm concerned about. We build capacities in the NGO. We build institutional capacities at the local governments, so they can indeed provide programming for violence and crime prevention. And I came to the US to keep learning about public policy, citizens security, and plan to do my professional affiliation in an international organization, and a regional one specifically, that is the Inter-American Development Bank. And because I trust that when we advocate for this prevention thing, we're gonna make a difference in the whole region. And eventually, I'm sure that I'm gonna be able to build capacities also in Venezuela, because I told you that if this is the longest night so far, but I know that the sun eventually will rise. And as a very wise woman told me once, hope is the last thing that we lose, because it's not connected to the head, but rather to the heart. And this is Maurice's mother, my aunt Lucia. And with this, I would like to conclude. I'm very happy to give you this presentation. I'm very honored to be invited by Global Minnesota. And now I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'm gonna introduce to you to Mushtaq. Mushtaq is a fellow from India, and it's been amazing sharing with him. I'm sure he has many stories to share.
Thank you, Maria, and hello, everyone. I'm going to speak about my region. So I belong to India, basically. India is in the South Asia. And I personally am from I'm from the Jammu and Kashmir. So India is a big country. It is the second most populous country in the world, and one of the largest democracies. It's known for its diversity. The term we use is like unity in diversity, because almost all religion people live there. The majority being Hindus, but there are like 13% Muslims and other religions also. And every region of India has its distinct culture, food, dance, folks, and everything. And About Jammu and Kashmir particularly, it's the northern part of India, which is divided into two main regions, the Jammu and Kashmir. The Jammu region is mostly a Hindu dominant with 66% Hindu population, and but also other religions. And in Kashmir, the majority is Muslims, like 96%. But we have other religions of like Sikhs, Hindus, Christians also living there. Uh, uh, I- India is bordered by like Pakistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. It's one of the countries like on which also the name of the ocean is also there, like the Indian Ocean. Uh, Historically, the history of India is as old as like 7,000 years before Christ, and it was around 500 years after the Christ. It was under a empire, we call it the Gupta Empire, which was one of the progressive empires. And the history of India originates from the Indus Valley civilization, and in fact, India derives the name also from the river Indus, which is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. Uh, Constitutionally, India is a democratic country. It has one of the lengthiest, constitution, written constitution, which talks about fundamental rights, fundamental duties, directive policies of state policy, uh, and it's the president is the constitutional head, whereas the prime minister is the executive head. It has 28 states and 8 union territories as of now. The population of India is around 1.35 billion, uh, and the population of Jammu and Kashmir is around 15 million. So India was previously a colony of British from 1858 to 1947, and in 1947 India got independence from British. The erstwhile India state also included Pakistan, Bangladesh, and in 1947, when the country got free from the British rule, it got divided into India and Pakistan. Unfortunately, at that time, the future of Kashmir was somehow not decided properly, and it resulted into a conflict, due to which a part of it went to the Pakistan and a part of it remained with India. And it was the beginning of the long-standing conflict between India and Pakistan, which has been now over 75 years. It went through many phases, and in 1989, a violent field started in Kashmir. The armed groups which were supported by Pakistan and which included many guys from Kashmir, which had went for training, started armed rebellion against Indian state, and there was the onset of the violence. Almost more than 100,000 people were killed during this time, and there also emerged many other issues like half widows, uh, people who had went missing. There was no report about them. Many children turned orphanages, and there was violence everywhere. People turned disabled, and the development and the economy of the state also went backwards. During By 2000, there was a decline in the militancy, but by 2008 a new wave of civil unrest began in Kashmir, and afterwards around 2012 to 2014 the new wave of militancy started. By 2016, we had the killing of a new militant commander who had become famous through social networking. And again, in 2006, another mass unrest emerged. These mass unrests in 2008, 2010, and 2016 resulted in stone pelting incidents and street protests, and almost resulting in killing of many young boys, which in almost above 100. Uh, with emergence of new militants in all those challenges, in the Indian government in 2019 uh, made a constitutional change in Kashmir. The agreement of Kashmir historically, when it went with India, was based on certain conditions that it will have its share of autonomy and rights over citizenship, land, and the jobs. But all those rights were historically through many instruments kind of declined or reduced, and whatever was left was taken away in 2019, and it was also divided into two states, which are now run directly from the central government. So there are lots of changes right now going on in Kashmir, and on the other side, the violence is also going on. Every Kashmiri who has been living there has suffered the violence. Even though I personally work as a prison officer right now, but I have also my experience of when I was beaten by army, by police, and also I have been, had some close shaves with death when I was also caught in fires and blasts which used to happen there. So talking further, because we have the Kashmir is one of the most beautiful places in on earth. It's called the heaven on earth. It has amazing landscapes. It's covered, or the Kashmir part is covered by mountains. It's called a valley. We have a couple of more valleys like Chenab Valley and Pir Panjal Range, which are all beautiful. And tourism is one of the most attractions to Kashmir. And when the situation is better, Kashmir, the tourism in Kashmir improves a lot. And if there is a situation like an unrest or violence, then the tourism suffers. Apart from it, it's also known for its handicrafts, like the pashmina shawls, and also the uh, paperwork, which we call which we, the handicrafts and the paperwork. Uh, regarding the other current regarding the COVID situation in India right now, we have uh, uh, the last daily count has been around 184,000 people have reported on daily basis, and last 7 days count is around 153,000 cases per day. In India, around 10 million people have been vaccinated so far. We have two vaccines, Covaxin and Covishield, which are Indian made in collaboration with Oxford. And now Sprintex V has also been approved to be used in India. Vaccinating all people is a challenge in India because it's a huge country. And similarly, in 2019, when the COVID hit India in March, the government announced a 3 months lockdown, which was then eased. And in the first wave, I guess in India didn't suffer as it was projected, but right now the things are turning little bad, and the government's priority is to get people vaccinated, and many states in India have turned to kind of uh, uh, bring in lockdowns again. Uh, in the end, I want to share about one of the Indian Kashmiri foods. I think Kashmir is known for its beauty, handicrafts, hospitality. The food in Kashmir is mostly the brought culturally brought by from the Persian culture, and we locally call it Wazwan. It is mostly consisted of different dishes which are non-veg dishes, and particularly our marriages are in our marriage mostly we serve the non-veg dishes, and we have a unique culture that four people would sit and they will eat in a single plate. So one of the recipes that uh, is very famous in Kashmir is we call it gushtaba or yakni. It's made up of meatballs. We prepare meatballs, and it's prepared with yogurt. So it's recipes like you need some spices like black and green cardamoms, salt, meat masala, uh, and other normal spices like bay leaves and onion, yogurt. So you have to prepare the meatballs by first grilling the meat, adding salt and black and green cardamoms, and then you prepare these balls. And in between, you have to heat the yogurt and keep it stirring till it boils. As it boils, you can add the meatballs in it and rest of the spices, and then you can also for taste and flavor you can add some dry fruits and keep it boiling for some time. So that's how it is prepared. Uh, I think that's from my side. Thank you, and I invite Is there anyone more left? Boban is from uh, Macedonia, and sorry, I forgot my intro. I think I that's I in Jammu and Kashmir. My work is on prisons. I work as a prison officer from last 8 years. Yeah, and period to that, I was working in the field of mental health, and also for a shorter period in the field of child rights protection. As a Humphrey Fellow, I am learning about public policy and restorative practices. The main aim is to develop understanding of some of the restorative justice approaches, so that when I go back, I adopt programs for the young offenders through alternative ways of justice to reduce their indoctrination, as well as improve the condition or protection of their rights. And the second important fact is learning about the public policy, because I also want to be in the field of policy framing, particularly in the criminal justice system, and start dialogue regarding the policy reforms. And third area which I am focusing on is youth civic engagement, learning about that, because I want to go back and also engage with the youth of the Kashmir, to kind of help them to progress in their life and engage in the positive activities. Apart from that, I am also improving my leadership abilities and understanding of different issues that contemporary world has. And I'm sure going back, I can be a change agent in a place which is going on through difficult times from many years, Kashmir, and make some positive impact. Thank you, and I introduce Boban, the next fellow from Macedonia. I'm sure he has
Thank you, Mushtaq.
tons of knowledge and uh, to share about his country and his work. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Boban. Thank you for joining, and I'm glad to be here with you today. When Global Minnesota first asked us to prepare a presentation about our countries to elementary school students, my first thought was, wow, great, what a fantastic idea. I'm going to familiarize the young students with my country. But my second thought was, wait, what I'm going to talk about? Am I going to talk about the history I had learned when I was a student, or I'm going to talk about the history that today's students learn about? I I asked myself, am I ready to say the new official name of my country, or I will avoid it? And these thoughts reflect the general situation in my country, identity issues, and constant oppression from our neighbors. I declined giving a presentation to these young folks because I don't know how to be politically correct when it comes to my country. And to be honest, I don't want to know. I'm from Macedonia, but 2 years ago, we changed our name. We added the word North to Macedonia. We changed our name because it was one of the conditions set by one of our neighbors in order to become a member of the European Union. Unfortunately, we are still not part of the European Union because another neighbor now asks us to give up our language, among other things. Estonia is a small country in the central part of the Balkan in the Southeast Europe. Over the years, this central location has generated more obstacles than opportunities for us. But all of these obstacles and challenges have helped us as a nation to develop strong character traits of persistence, goodwill, and most importantly, never losing hope. The capital and the largest city is Skopje, the birthplace of Mother Teresa. But equally famous is the city of Ohrid and Ohrid Lake. The national and official language is Macedonian. When it comes to my country, I always want to emphasize that we are fond of sport. When our national teams play, whether it is football, basketball, or handball, almost everybody watches, and we all experience every game with great enthusiasm. We all believe that we are participating in the game. And after the game, all of us are experts in commenting on the game. I believe that Through sports, we show our national greatness. And with that, we truly follow the sentiment of one of our national historic figure who said that he understands the world as a field for cultural competition among nations. And that is what we do. For us, when it comes to sports, there are not big countries or small countries, just two teams. As a matter of fact, in just the past month, our national football team beat Germany in an official match played in Germany, and our national handball team beat back-to-back world and Olympic champion Denmark, also in an official match. These two events were a great opportunity for the people of my country to take a break from the daily political events, especially the ones related to vaccines. We only start with our vaccination process last week. The whole delay of vaccine procurement confirms there are huge problems with the functioning of our government. And sadly, it's not just the current government, but also the previous ones. The daily numbers regarding the virus, unfortunately, are very high. According to one Financial Times report, in the first week of this month, my country had the third highest death rate in the world. That is a dramatic increase, but our ministers in the government feel comfortable going for vacation in Dubai and Mexico at the peak of the pandemic, while our prime minister was out enjoying motorcycles ride last weekend. But despite all of this problem my people face, we are very friendly and hospitable. We have outstanding traditional cuisine and high quality wine. Our cuisines reflect Mediterranean and Middle Eastern influences. Tavche gravche is considered the most famous dish, and it's my favorite one. The dish is prepared with beans, and although it appears sometimes to be simple, it's not easy, believe me. There is special technique for preparing it. Tavche gravche literally translate means beans in the pan. In the Macedonian language, it sounds more delicious. We usually eat it with fish, and we always eat fish with garlic sauce that we call macao. I forgot to mention that we start our lunch with vegetable salad, with white cheese, and most importantly, with rakia. Rakia is local drink, and it's a very strong one. Salad and rakia are like mandatory starter. Even if you go to meet the father of your girlfriend, you have to drink rakia with him. If you don't drink rakia, you can be considered not enough good for his daughter. Okay, let's talk about more serious thing. I work in the Ministry of Finance. I am responsible for creating public policies, including drafting legislation in the financial system. I'm an ardent advocate for evidence-based and effective public policies. I'm firm in the view that better public policies improve society. In my country, you can often hear young people blame the system for personal lack of success. Many leaders will say that they are just looking for excuses, but I don't think so. I think that they are right about that. When you have system that creates injustice and inequalities, blaming the system makes sense. And how do we create system in society? The answer is through legislation and public policies. So in my opinion, the source of all our problem is the public policy making process. We propose law and policies, but without assessing the impact. In creating public policies, there has been very low or limited engagement of the key stakeholders and the public in general. Very often, all of the correspondence with the stakeholders is more like a formality. I think that if we improve public policy making, especially with impact assessment, we can improve society in general. That's my inspiration. That's what I'm looking for here, to gain more knowledge in assessing public policy. Beside my work in the ministry, I am co-founder of an NGO where our mission is to improve financial education and financial inclusion of young people. As a representative of the Ministry of Finance and one of the first members of the National Coordination Body for Financial Education, I became aware that our ambitions and ideas for establishing financial education as a formal subject in the schools will not be reality for a while. So instead of waiting for that, I came up with an idea to create a classroom outside of the schools. And that's what we are doing in my NGO. We financially educate young people, covering financial consumer protection topics, financial literacy and inclusion, and even advise them for starting a business. But most importantly, we aim to encourage critical thinking in young people. We are trying to inspire them to be involved in public decision making and be drivers of innovative initiatives. So far, even beside all of the constraints we face because of the pandemic, I'm happy to be here. I've enjoyed the classes and I like Minneapolis and Minnesota. Minneapolis reminds me of my hometown because of the fresh air, river, and green spaces. I really admire the lifestyle of Minnesotans. I was amazed when I saw folks running during the winter. But what I like the most is the opportunity to enjoy a wide range of sports events. Actually, the favorite moment for me so far was watching the baseball game. We watched the Minnesota Twins last Sunday. The game lasted almost 4 hours, but for me it was like 15 minutes. Baseball is not popular in my country, so I didn't know that I would enjoy the game so much. I was sad because we lost the game, but it was a new experience for me. And I can assure you that now the Minnesota Twins has another lifetime supporter. In fact, I would definitely support the Minnesota teams in any sport in the future. Because I was not born Minnesotan, but I have started to feel like that. Thank you to all for listening to me.
Okay, thank you so much, Boban and everybody for your presentations. If I could get the speakers to turn their cameras back on, and we will come together now for a quick Q&A. I just want to say I really appreciate everybody's candor about the challenges that your countries are facing. And also I see so much hope and determination, and I just want to thank you all for the work you're doing and for telling us about it, and for coming to Minnesota and joining us today in this Lunch and Learn. So I guess there was a question in the chat, and someone asked, I think this is for Boban, oh, what if a boyfriend does not drink alcoholic drinks? Can he still get married?
In that case, there will be one exception. We are going to accept that if the guy don't drink rakia, so it's not supposed. I mean, if he doesn't drink alcohol, it's okay. It can pass.
Okay, thank you. I had a question for Dunya. So you talked a lot about some of the challenges. We didn't talk a lot, but you touched on many of the challenges that Morocco is facing at the moment. I am wondering if there are one or two of those current issues that has a large focus, or that there are many initiatives being put forth to find solutions in particular for any particular issues.
I think that the first answer would be yes. Of course, there are initiatives, and thankfully there are, because otherwise that would mean that we will never overcome any challenge and issue. I think that there are a lot of efforts done by the civil society organizations, even if the ones that are really working for the common good and for no other interest than that of making things progress are very little, but there are initiatives. It's very difficult to work and to navigate the Moroccan context because of the challenges I said. But the NGOs are trying to do what they can in order to advocate for change. There is little done by political parties And unfortunately, this is the weakness of that we face. That we had a very strong a period with very strong political parties that were opposing the regime at that time and proposing alternatives to for a democratic transition and for the respect of human rights, mainly during what we call the years of lead, that were our dictatorship period. But then they have changed their policy and they are weaker and weaker, and they don't have any impact on politics. And then you have the institutional reforms, and that ones are problematic because maybe, as Boban said, it's okay to come with a policy, but you need to come with a relevant policy, with a policy that is needed first. And then you have to be accountable on this policy and to analyze it and evaluate it and adjust it if it doesn't work. So we have been doing policies for half a century now with no impact. So something is wrong. And this wrong is what we try to address as civil society organizations.
Thank you so much. I see there's another question in the chat here. I think this is for Boban. What are the next steps in the path to join the EU for North Macedonia?
Well, definitely the next step should be agreement with one of our neighbors because they veto our membership in the European Union because of our language. They ask us to affirm that our language, Macedonian language, is part, it's not unique language, it's part of their language. So it's a little bit tricky because we lost our name, we lost our citizenship, because now the people many often identify me like not Macedonian, but like citizens of North Macedonia, or very often like North Macedonian. So the next step, if you want to be part of the European Union, we should make some agreement with with Bulgaria. So how it's going to be, I'm not sure, because I'm pretty sure that we are not going to cross now the red line. We are not going to give up of our language.
Thank you. I see a question from, excuse me, Dr. Lawson, who's asking, I'm just wondering about the effect of the racial tensions here in Minnesota that we are facing. I know that Boban shared that he feels like a Minnesotan and at home already, and wondering whether this is the case for others. Maria, would you like to answer that question?
Sure. I have to say that I feel very welcome here. I can feel the Minnesota nice. Everybody's being very kind. And at the same time, I feel welcome, but at the same time worry about the situation, what the information that we receive from the outside, it's always not enough. And it's not the same than being here and witness many things. Like since I started the fellowship, I've been trying to connect with local people, attending like community conversations. And I can for sure say that I can feel the pain, and I can feel at the same time how many people are trying to heal. But when you have a system that is not going to the same direction, it's quite difficult. And we just witnessed this week. So for sure, I'm gonna come back telling the story of what I saw and the pain that I have felt here. This is very particular in the US, I have to say. Like in Venezuela, we are a country, we used to receive a lot of immigrants. So we are very diverse. Even though we can't have many inequality differences and inequality in general, we don't have the same racial tensions that you have. So I think it's important to also try to make the world understand the details of the situations, because what I'm seeing this here is that it's quite particular. And I think Mark, yeah, it's unmuted.
Can I add?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I support what Maria said, and actually it's very hard to feel like a Minnesotan or like an American person during these times and in general, because basically this is a very, very specific situation in the US. So we can have empathy, and we can like personally, I have a lot of empathy and a lot of support to the Black Lives Matter movement and to all the movement that promotes social justice and the fight against discriminations. But it's really hard to feel like a Minnesotan, at least for me, because this experience is kind of unique. We don't experiment this kind of racial tensions, and basically for me personally, the word race, when speaking about human being, is really not usual. We never use this because for us, there is only one race, and it's the human race. Whatever language, if we are speaking in Arabic or speaking in other languages like French, for instance, race is for the human race. So I think I feel close to the issues, but at the same time, really different.
Thank you so much. I think it's really helpful to hear perspectives, your perspectives in particular about this issue, and it is near and dear to our hearts in this community, especially right now. I have another question from Mark, who is asking, I think this is from Maria. Colombia has accepted for the moment over 1 million refugees. How can this arrangement be supported by the United States in a way that could be helpful to all?
Yeah, that Mark indeed is true. I'm glad you know that. Colombia has been one of the most affected with the whole mass migration. Now they have over almost 2 million people in the border, because it's one of the few ways that you can flood the country. The other one is Brazil, but since we have a language difference, most people prefer going to the Colombia border. Even my family, when they fled, they do it through Colombia. And the US very recently did something similar. US have been advocating for the Venezuelan situation in a bipartisan way, like not just one party here in the US. And recently you approved a special protection for Venezuelans. This was a couple of months ago, and I have to say that I felt very happy, very glad that many people that I know that they are here now they're not going to be as worried as they were about their current migrant situation. So in the state level, you did a really good job very recently. But of course, you can also make more work trying to align the region on this situation, because I think the Venezuelan situation needs different strategies at the same time, not just one strategy. And one of those is trying to create an international and a special, a regional cooperation, all going towards the same goal.
Great. So I think I have a final question, because I think he wants to, we'd like to hear from anyone who's interested in answering. And that was, are you concerned about government reprisal or intelligence monitoring your time in Minnesota? And that's for anybody who would like to touch on that. And if no one does, I have a final rapid fire question at the end.
They already did very well at home, so. No.
Well, we're just joking about Dunya and I. We're gonna campaign each other if sometimes we are like, in a bad situation. But I think we're brave enough to do the right thing, that is raise our voices.
I'm not concerned.
No, but to answer this question more seriously, maybe there is always a risk, of course, and this risk of being observed or watched or whatever exists in our country where we are. in Morocco. Actually, if you follow the news, you will see that this journalist that I was speaking about during the presentation very quickly, one of them is imprisoned because Amnesty International revealed that the Moroccan authorities were spying the activists and journalists and human rights defenders through an Israeli software that they put into their electronic devices. And this story triggered all the cases and the suits. So yeah, this is something common and known, and these are very dirty tools that the authorities are now getting back to, because we got out this 20 years ago, and now we are back. And this is also an alarming sign of the shrinking of human rights and freedom space. But the risk is there, and I think that we decided to just take it.
So I think as a final question, this is kind of a rapid fire question. I hope we can hear from each of you. And on a much lighter note, could each of you tell us if I think we're all dreaming of travel, and that will be one day again, be able to get on planes and meet people and see your beautiful countries. Could you just tell us where you would send a visitor? You can only pick one place in your country.
Oh, for me, Casablanca, obviously.
Boban, you're next.
I would say my hometown. Actually, beside of my job in the Ministry of Finance at NGO, I run a small family business where I'm renting apartment in my hometown. So I'm going to share the link of the apartment. If the people who are interested, they can text me, and I'm going to give them a huge discount because they are a member of Global Minnesota.
Wonderful. I love that. Maria.
Oh, so many places, but I think one of the most beautiful places in Venezuela, and it's quite known, it's the Angels Falls. Those are the highest waterfalls in the whole world. And if you saw Up, the movie, the whole travel was just to arrive there to the Angels Falls. So I dreamed to go there. I didn't have the chance, but if you have it, please go there.
Awesome. Mushtaq.
Yeah, of course, Kashmir. Kashmir is a beautiful place. So we love people coming there, and because tourism is also a backbone of our economy, and also a confidence building measure for the peace. Like if there is more tourism, we tend to be it tends to go more towards peace, and people also feel happy there. They also express their sufferings to particularly to foreigners, not to the Indians actually. If someone comes from the foreign land, so they will tell him a lot of stories about the conflict and all that. So yes, of course, Kashmir people should come. If I would always recommend the first on your list should be Kashmir, and they can come to my home.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think we all have a wonderful bucket list here now for places to visit, and it's wonderful to get to know you all and just hear more about your lives and your countries, and we just really appreciate it. I know we tackled some kind of tough questions today, and so thank you all for, again, being with us today and sharing your perspectives. This is, again, kind of the thing that Global Minnesota was founded on, which is bringing the power, it's, the power of the personal and really being able to connect with people on and get to know them internationally. So again, we just can't thank you enough for joining us today. And to our members who were here today, thank you again so much for your support. And for non-members who are here today as guests, please consider becoming a member. And just a reminder also that tonight we do have another program called Trade is Not a Four-Letter Word. You can register for that on our website. So feel free to go ahead and do that. It's another free program. You can tune in on our YouTube channel. Global Minnesota's YouTube channel has all of our previous programs, most of our previous programs listed there too. So we've covered many topics in many countries in the last year, and you're welcome to review any of those as well. Once again, I want to thank everybody so much for coming. Bye. Have a nice afternoon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Have a good day. Bye.